In the serene valley town of Pine Haven, Montana, a ruthless street gang made a fatal miscalculation when they decided to intimidate a quiet single mother at her local coffee shop. They had no idea they were threatening one of the most lethal counter-terrorism snipers ever to serve in Delta Force, a woman who would make them deeply regret ever setting foot in her peaceful community. Some battles end before they begin, and the Crimson Kings were about to discover why certain military records remain classified. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed. Because tomorrow, I've saved something extra special for you. The crisp September morning painted Pine Haven's surrounding mountains in shades of gold and burgundy, their jagged peaks disappearing into wisps of early fog. Sarah Mitchell moved, with calculated grace along the weathered boardwalk of Main Street, her footsteps silent against the aged wood. At 38, she carried herself with the measured confidence of someone who had spent years masking exceptional capabilities beneath an ordinary exterior. The small valley town, nestled at 7,500 feet in Montana's remote wilderness, had become her sanctuary. Over the past 3 years, here she could raise her 12-year-old daughter Emma away from the shadows of her classified past. To the local residents, she was simply Sarah, the reserved woman who ran Haven's Edge coffee shop and taught weekend self-defense classes at the local community center. None of them knew that those same hands now carefully crafting artisanal lattes had once earned her the call sign Phantom during 5 classified operations with Delta Force's elite counter-terrorism unit. The morning light had barely touched the valley floor when Sarah noticed the first indicators of trouble. Her trained senses detected the distant rumble of modified engines, too aggressive, too numerous for the usual morning traffic. She paused at her coffee shop's entrance, keys in hand, as her enhanced hearing counted the approaching vehicles. 7 motorcycles, 3 SUVs, all moving with coordinated precision that suggested professional training rather than random thugs. Through her shop window's reflection, she tracked their movement into town, her mind automatically calculating distances, angles, and potential defensive positions with the same precision that had once made her legendary in classified combat operations. The vehicle's formation spoke of organized crime rather than casual intimidation. "Morning, Sarah," called Ben Cooper from his hardware store next door, his cheerful voice contrasting with the mounting tension. "Emma, still coming by to help with the fall festival decorations?" "Of course," Sarah replied with a practiced smile, while her tactical assessment continued uninterrupted. "She's been talking about it all week." Her daughter's enthusiasm for community events was one of many precious moments that made Pine Haven feel like home. A home she had sworn to protect long before this morning's unwelcome visitors appeared. The convoy came into full view as Sarah unlocked her shop. The riders wore red leather jackets emblazoned with a crowned skull, the signature mark of the Crimson Kings, a rising criminal organization whose violent reputation had been spreading across the northern states. Their recent activities had caught Sarah's attention during her regular intelligence monitoring, a habit maintained through private security consulting work that served as both income and cover for maintaining her operational readiness. Inside Haven's Edge, Sarah moved through her morning routine with practiced efficiency, her movements deliberate as she prepared the equipment for the day's business. The shop's layout had been carefully designed from day one, the seemingly random arrangement of tables and counter space creating perfect channels for quick movement and defensive positions, though her customers never noticed how their favorite coffee spot doubled as a tactical strong point. Through the front windows, she observed the Crimson Kings establishing control points at key intersections. Their deployment was tactical, suggesting law enforcement or military background. She counted 18 bikes and 12 men on foot, with more likely waiting in the SUVs. Their leader, a tall figure whose jacket identified him as Crown, directed his men with hand signals that confirmed Sarah's assessment of their training level. Her secure phone vibrated, a text from Emma about staying late for the robotics club. The normalcy of the message contrasted sharply with Sarah's tactical evaluation of the unfolding situation. She sent back a casual response, maintaining routine while her mind mapped contingencies. The Crimson King's presence meant trouble, but their sophisticated approach suggested this was more than simple extortion. The bell above her door chimed as two riders entered, their boots heavy on the polished concrete floor. Sarah continued arranging pastries in the display case, her movements unhurried as she assessed their weapons. Concealed sidearms, professional. Holsters, definitely not amateur equipment. "Nice place," the first man commented, his voice carrying a hint of Boston accent. His jacket identified him as Bishop, and the way he moved spoke of SWAT training. "Quite the setup you've got here. Must get pretty busy." Sarah turned, presenting the carefully crafted image of a slightly nervous small business owner, while noting every detail of their stance, equipment, and positioning. "Can I help you gentlemen find something specific? Our morning blend just finished brewing." The second rider, younger but moving with similar tactical awareness, made a show of studying the menu board. "Just getting to know the local businesses. Towns like Pine Haven might need some protection, times being what they are." Through the windows, Sarah watched more Crimson Kings deploying through town, their movement suggesting they were documenting security cameras, access points, and defensive positions. This wasn't random intimidation. They were preparing for something bigger. "Pine haven't always been pretty peaceful," Sarah replied, her voice carrying just enough edge to draw Bishop's focused attention. "Don't recall anyone asking for protection." Bishop's smile didn't reach his eyes as he moved closer, intentionally invading her personal space. "Peace is a funny thing, ma'am. Real fragile. Smart folks understand the value of insurance." Sarah maintained her position, showing neither submission nor challenge. Her heart rate remained steady, years of combat experience allowing her to project exactly the image she chose while remaining ready for instant action. Through the reflection in the espresso machine, she tracked the second rider's movement toward her office door. "Interesting security setup back here," he called out, hand resting casually near his concealed weapon. "Reinforced doors, commercial-grade cameras. Seems awfully careful for a coffee shop." "Credit card fraud concerns," Sarah answered smoothly. "You'd be surprised how common it is these days." The explanation was practiced, plausible, much like how she explained away the shooting range in her basement as simply an enthusiastic hobby. The truth was more complex. The coffee shop's security systems were military-grade, its basement containing a sophisticated command center from which she monitored regional criminal activities and maintained contact with former operators who had settled throughout the northern states. The quiet life she had built in Pine Haven was genuine, but it was built upon a foundation of constant vigilance. Bishop's tactical assessment continued as he studied her with growing interest. Something about her stance, her too-perfect positioning, had triggered his combat instincts. "You seem awfully comfortable with strangers in your shop, ma'am. Most folks get nervous when we come calling." "Coffee tends to attract all types," Sarah replied, allowing a hint of her true capability to show through her carefully maintained facade. "You learn to read people pretty quick in this business." The subtle emphasis on read caused Bishop's hand to drift closer to his weapon, his combat experience recognizing something his conscious mind hadn't quite processed yet. The predator in the room wasn't who he assumed it was. Through the windows, Sarah watched more Crimson Kings, photographing the school building, where Emma was currently in advanced mathematics. The sight caused her emotional temperature to drop several degrees, even as her tactical planning accelerated. They had made a critical error in target selection, But their greatest mistake was documenting her daughter's school. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you're enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The bell chimed again as Crown himself entered, his imposing presence filling the doorway. 6'3" of tactical expertise wrapped in red leather and malice, he moved with the assurance of someone used to commanding immediate respect. Sarah's instantaneous assessment noted his modified sidearm, the subtle communications device, in his ear, and the way his jacket bulged slightly on the left side. Backup weapon, likely a compact automatic. "Interesting security measures," Crown commented, his voice carrying the clipped precision of command experience. "High-end cameras, reinforced doors. You must take your coffee very seriously." Sarah allowed herself a small smile, one that decades of combat experience had learned to use as both warning and weapon. Business owners need to be careful these days, especially about people who mistake quiet towns for easy targets. The atmosphere in the coffee shop shifted perceptibly as Crown registered the steel beneath her words. His tactical training recognized that this conversation had moved beyond simple intimidation, even if he didn't yet understand why. Through her shop windows, Sarah counted 4 more SUVs arriving, bringing the Crimson King's total presence to nearly 40. Their deployment pattern suggested extensive planning. This wasn't just a protection racket, but something larger. Pine Haven's strategic location along hidden valley routes made it valuable for various illegal enterprises. "Lady," Crown said, softly, closing the distance between them with measured steps, "I don't think you understand the situation. This isn't a negotiation. This is a briefing. Tonight, every business owner in Pine Haven learns about our new protection arrangements. Attendance is mandatory." Sarah maintained her position, showing neither concern nor submission. Her mind calculated ranges, angles, and firing solutions with the same precision that had once made her legendary in classified operations across 3 continents. "Actually," she replied, her voice carrying the quiet authority that had once commanded, "elite teams in the world's deadliest environments, I don't think you understand the situation at all." The morning sun, filtering through her shop windows, cast strange shadows across Crown's face as he processed her response. Combat instincts finally recognizing that something about this supposedly simple encounter had gone very, very wrong. "Count. Came in," Bishop reported, moving to Crown's side with practiced efficiency. "Town's security infrastructure is minimal. Police stations got 3 deputies, all off duty. Nearest state response is 35 minutes out, assuming they can even navigate the mountain passes." Sarah watched their confidence grow as they assessed Pine Haven's apparent vulnerability. Their tactical analysis was professional, thorough, and fundamentally flawed. Like so many others, they mistook the absence of obvious security for lack of protection. Through the windows, she observed more Crimson Kings documenting the town's layout, their methodical approach suggesting this operation had been planned for weeks, probably including surveillance she had intentionally ignored to avoid revealing her capabilities. Now she noted how they photographed power substations, communication towers, and emergency response routes, the kind of detailed intelligence gathering that preceded long-term occupation. "Town meeting. 8 p.m. Community Center," Crown repeated, his voice carrying the command presence that had likely served him well in his former law enforcement career. "Every business owner, every property holder. No exceptions." His gaze fixed on Sarah with predatory intensity. "Especially independent. Women who might think they can handle things alone." The implied threat would have intimidated most people. Sarah simply maintained her measured observation, calculating angles and distances with the same precision that had once enabled her to rewrite the records for counter-terrorism effectiveness. The Crimson Kings had chosen Pine Haven believing. Its isolation made it vulnerable. They were about to learn why some capabilities remained classified even years after leaving active service. "Interesting timing," Sarah commented, her voice carrying subtle undertones that caused Bishop to tense slightly. 8 p.m., right when the valley winds shift, creates some fascinating atmospheric effects, especially for anyone interested in ballistic calculations. The deliberate emphasis made Crown pause, his combat experience recognizing the warning, even if he didn't yet understand its full implications. Before he could respond, his radio crackled with an encrypted transmission. Sarah's enhanced hearing caught fragments of the report. Their surveillance teams had discovered her shooting range. Sarah Mitchell's morning routine had begun long before the Crimson Kings arrived in Pine Haven. At 0500 hours, she had already completed her daily training, regimen in the specialized facility beneath her modest valley home. The basement shooting range, far more sophisticated than any civilian setup, remained her sanctuary, a place where the familiar weight of a precision rifle and the focus required for impossible shots helped center her thoughts. The ranges. Walls were lined with advanced acoustic dampening materials, a renovation she'd undertaken when purchasing the property 3 years ago. Her daughter, Emma, slept peacefully 2 floors above, unaware of her mother's morning ritual. The technical aspects of precision shooting had always come naturally to Sarah, but motherhood had honed her skills to unprecedented levels, adding layers of protective instinct to her already formidable capabilities. Her instructors in Delta Force had called her a prodigy, blessed with an innate understanding of ballistics, wind patterns, and the patience required for shots that seemed to defy physics. What they didn't understand was that her exceptional abilities stemmed not from natural talent, but from an absolute dedication to perfection. Every variable, every possibility was calculated and recalculated until success became inevitable. That morning's practice session had focused on shots requiring complex atmospheric compensation, the kind of calculations that most snipers considered theoretical rather than practical. Sarah had spent years studying Pine Haven's unique weather patterns, understanding how the valley winds created conditions that would challenge less experienced operators while offering opportunities for those who truly understood their implications. After her practice, she had prepared Emma's breakfast with the same precision she applied to everything else. Her daughter had inherited her methodical nature, approaching her advanced mathematics and robotics projects with similar dedication. The notes she placed in her lunch contained not just motherly encouragement, but coded messages that helped maintain their secure communication protocols, a precaution that seemed excessive until moments like this proved its worth. Now, as the morning sun climbed higher over Pine Haven, Sarah initiated the contingency plan she had developed through years of careful preparation. Her secure phone connected to an encrypted network that few outside special operations even knew existed. Phantom Online, she transmitted using a call sign that hadn't been spoken on official channels in years. Protocol Echo initiated, timeline approximately 10 hours. The response was immediate, confirming that certain capabilities remained active long after leaving official service. Confirmed Phantom. Assets in position. Stormwatch and Nightshade are green. Sarah allowed herself a slight smile, recognizing the call signs of former teammates who had settled in neighboring communities specifically to maintain operational readiness. The Crimson King's tactical assessment of Pine Haven's isolation had failed to account for the network of highly trained operators who had chosen these valleys precisely because they offered perfect conditions for their particular skill sets. Through her coffee shop's sophisticated surveillance systems, Sarah monitored the Crimson King's continuing deployment throughout town. Their operations showed professional discipline, but also revealed patterns that could be exploited by someone with her level of experience. Each photograph they took of strategic locations, each measurement they made of sight lines and approach, routes provided her with valuable intelligence about their tactical priorities. Her secure system pinged with an incoming transmission from Stormwatch, her former spotter during operations that remained classified above top secret. Multiple vehicles incoming from north and east approaches. Crimson Kings are establishing a broader perimeter than initially indicated. Current count shows 47 operators with military-grade equipment. Sarah acknowledged the information while continuing her analysis of their deployment patterns. The Crimson Kings' numbers were significant, their equipment professional, but they were operating on assumptions that would prove fatal against her capabilities. Their tactical experience expected resistance to come from predictable vectors, not from a shooter who had rewritten the parameters of what was possible in classified operations. "Confirmed," she transmitted back. "Implementing Phase 1. Maintain. Observation protocols. Nightshade, status update on secondary positions." The response came through their secure channel with practiced efficiency. 3 elevated positions established, all with clear fields of fire to primary targets. Valley winds are shifting as predicted. Atmospheric conditions will be optimal at approximately 2,000 hours. The timing aligned perfectly with the Crimson King's planned town meeting. Sarah had spent years studying Pine Haven's weather patterns, understanding how the valley winds created unique conditions during sunset. Conditions that most operators considered too complex for precision shooting, but which she had learned to exploit with devastating effectiveness. Her phone vibrated with another text from Emma, a coded message confirming she had activated her own preparedness protocols. Her daughter's mathematical genius had proven invaluable in developing new algorithms for calculating complex environmental variables. The Crimson Kings had no idea that some of their tactical obstacles had been theorized by a 12-year-old who approached combat ballistics as a fascinating optimization problem. Through her surveillance systems, Sarah observed Crown establishing his command center at the old mill on the town's northern edge. Their choice of location demonstrated professional tactical assessment, clear lines of sight, multiple escape routes, defensible approaches, but it also revealed their fundamental misconception about the nature of the threat they faced. Target. Location confirmed, she transmitted to her team. Their positioning is exactly as projected. Stormwatch. Initiate surveillance of sectors 3 through 7. Nightshade. Maintain overwatch of primary escape routes. The responses came back with quiet efficiency, confirming that years of preparation were transforming into perfect tactical positioning. The Crimson Kings had chosen Pine Haven, believing their numbers and training made them invincible against civilian targets. They were about to learn why certain combat capabilities remained classified even years after their implementation. Sarah moved through her coffee shop with practiced ease, her routine appearance masking the tactical calculations running through her mind. Each customer interaction provided cover for monitoring the Crimson King's deployment, each casual conversation allowing her to track their movement patterns without revealing her surveillance. Jenny from the bakery stopped by, her concern evident as she described the intimidating presence of leather-clad bikers throughout town. "Sarah, what are we going to do? They're photographing everything, making lists of business owners. Tom at the hardware store says they've already visited him with their protection offers." "Everything will be fine, Jenny," Sarah assured her. Her calm confidence genuine, but for reasons she couldn't explain. Pine Haven has survived worse than a few overconfident bikers. The truth was far more complex. The town had survived precisely because of capabilities that its residents never needed to know existed. Her secure system pinged again with updated intelligence from Nightshade. Additional forces arriving from the southern approach. Tactical profile suggests former Special Operations personnel among their leadership. They're implementing advanced security protocols. The information confirmed Sarah's assessment that the Crimson King's leadership included professionally trained operators. Their deployment patterns showed the influence of military experience. Their security measures demonstrated familiarity with high-level tactical procedures. Under normal circumstances, their preparation would have been more than adequate for controlling a small valley town. But Pine Haven was far from normal, and Sarah's capabilities existed well outside standard tactical parameters. Through her surveillance systems, she watched their forces establish observation posts throughout town, their positioning reflecting professional expertise that would prove insufficient against her particular skill set. "Confirmed," she transmitted back. "Maintain current protocols. They're following predicted patterns, implementing standard counter-sniper procedures that don't account for our advanced capabilities." Her phone vibrated with another coded message from Emma, this one containing complex atmospheric calculations she'd developed during her advanced mathematics studies. Her daughter's unique approach to ballistics had helped her refine techniques that even her military instructors had considered theoretically impossible. The Crimson Kings had no way of knowing that their tactical vulnerability had been mathematically proven by a preteen with a passion for applied physics. Through her coffee shop windows, Sarah observed more Crimson Kings arriving, their numbers now approaching 60 operators. Their presence was deliberately intimidating, designed to convince the town that resistance was futile. But their show of force revealed a fundamental misunderstanding of true tactical superiority. Multiple teams establishing elevated positions. Stormwatch reported through their secure channel. Standard counter-sniper protocols, but they're not accounting for complex atmospheric variables. Their positioning assumes conventional engagement parameters. Sarah allowed herself a slight smile, recognizing how their professional training was actually creating exploitable weaknesses. The Crimson Kings were implementing tactical procedures designed to counter normal sniper operations, not understanding that her capabilities had long since transcended standard operational parameters. "Acknowledged," she transmitted back. "Continue surveillance. Let them establish their positions based on conventional tactical assumptions. Their training will make them predictable." The morning continued as Sarah maintained her careful balance of apparent normalcy and tactical preparation. Each interaction with concerned townspeople provided opportunities for gathering intelligence, every worried conversation revealing more about the Crimson King's activities throughout Pine Haven. Through her sophisticated surveillance network, she observed Crown personally directing the establishment of security checkpoints at key intersections. His tactical expertise was evident in how he positioned his forces, but his professional experience had become a liability, making him vulnerable to capabilities that existed outside normal combat parameters. "Sir," one of his lieutenants reported, through their encrypted channels, which Sarah's advanced systems easily monitored, local intelligence confirms minimal organized resistance capability. Town's defensive infrastructure is negligible. The Crown's response reflected professional confidence based on standard tactical assessment. Maintain current deployment protocols. By sunset, Pine Haven will understand the benefits of our protection. After tonight's meeting, resistance won't be an option. Sarah continued her routine while monitoring their communications, each transmission confirming that the Crimson King's professional training had created blind spots in their tactical assessment. They were preparing for conventional resistance, implementing countermeasures against standard threats. Nothing in their experience had prepared them for facing capabilities that redefined what was possible in combat operations. As afternoon approached Pine Haven, Sarah's surveillance systems detected a subtle shift in the Crimson King's tactical operations. Their initial deployment phase was transitioning into a more aggressive presence, with teams beginning to actively pressure local businesses. Through her coffee shop's sophisticated monitoring equipment, she observed their forces implementing textbook intimidation protocols she had once helped develop during her military career. Multiple teams initiating direct contact with primary businesses, Stormwatch reported, through their secure channel. They're documenting responses, categorizing potential resistance, professional methodology suggesting extensive planning. Sarah acknowledged the information while monitoring the Crimson King's movement patterns. Their approach demonstrated the kind of tactical sophistication she had expected, but also revealed opportunities that less experienced operators might miss. Each intimidation visit provided her with valuable data about their command structure and response protocols. Confirmed, she transmitted back. Maintain surveillance of sectors 4 through 6. Pay particular attention to their communication patterns during civilian interactions. Her secure system pinged with additional intelligence from Nightshade, positioned in the mountains overlooking Pine Haven. New vehicles approaching from the Western Access Road, different tactical profile from previous arrivals, more sophisticated equipment, professional security protocols. Through her surveillance network, Sarah observed 3 black SUVs entering town, their movements displaying the kind of precision that spoke of advanced tactical training. The vehicle's modifications were subtle, but significant. Custom suspension for mountain terrain, reinforced frames, specialized communications equipment. This wasn't standard gang transportation. These were professional security vehicles. "Sir," one of Crown's lieutenants transmitted through their encrypted channels, "Echo team has arrived with specialized equipment. Technical assessment of the town's infrastructure is proceeding as planned." Kate's enhanced surveillance system intercepted Crown's response, his voice carrying new authority. "Good. Begin Phase 2 preparations. By sunrise tomorrow, Pine Haven's independence will be a memory. Our clients require complete control of these mountain passes." The mention of clients confirmed Sarah's assessment that the Crimson Kings were operating as proxies for larger interests. Their professional equipment and tactical sophistication suggested backing from organizations that preferred to remain hidden, using the gang's reputation as cover for more strategic objectives. Her secure phone vibrated with another coded message from Emma. Her daughter's afternoon robotics club was working on drone projects, providing perfect cover for monitoring the Crimson King's deployment from multiple angles. The data she gathered, processed through her advanced mathematics algorithms, would prove invaluable during the coming confrontation. "Additional intelligence incoming," she transmitted to her team. "Drone surveillance confirms they're establishing secondary command posts throughout town. Their tactical dispersion suggests preparation for potential resistance." Through her coffee shop windows, Sarah watched the Echo team begin their technical assessment of Pine Haven's infrastructure. Their movements displayed the kind of efficiency that came from extensive experience in urban control operations. These weren't common criminals. These were professionals implementing sophisticated protocols for assuming control of strategic locations. "Target profile updated," Stormwatch reported. Echo team's equipment includes advanced counter-sniper systems. They're establishing detection grids across primary sectors. Sarah allowed herself a slight smile, recognizing the standard protocols she had once helped establish for urban control operations. The Crimson Kings were implementing every recommended procedure, following tactical guidelines designed to ensure absolute control. Their professional approach would have been more than adequate against conventional resistance. "Let them deploy. Their systems," she transmitted back, "their detection grids are calibrated for standard operational parameters. They're not equipped to identify capabilities that transcend normal tactical limitations." Her surveillance network tracked Echo Team's methodical progress through town as they documented defensive weaknesses and strategic vulnerabilities. Their assessment was thorough, professional, and fundamentally flawed. Like so many before them, they were preparing to counter conventional threats, not understanding that some capabilities existed outside normal tactical parameters. Through encrypted channels, Sarah intercepted communications between Echo Team and Crown's command post. Primary infrastructure analysis complete. Town's defensive capabilities are minimal. No significant security systems detected. Civilian population shows no signs of organized resistance potential. The assessment caused Sarah to arch an eyebrow slightly, appreciating how thoroughly her preparations had avoided detection. Years of experience had taught her that the most effective defensive positions were those that remained invisible until the moment of engagement. Her secure system pinged with updated intelligence from Night. Shade. Be advised, the Echo Team is approaching the school. They're implementing detailed surveillance protocols, documenting all access points and security measures. Sarah's expression hardened as she watched them photograph Emma's school through her surveillance network. The Crimson Kings had already made a serious tactical error in targeting Pine Haven, but threatening her daughter's safety moved this confrontation into parameters that few operators were equipped to survive. Acknowledged, she transmitted, her voice carrying the kind of deadly calm that had once made hardened combat veterans speak of her in whispered tones. Maintain current observation protocols. Let them establish their positions according to standard tactical doctrine. Through her sophisticated monitoring systems, Sarah observed Echo Team completing their technical assessment of the school. Their professional efficiency was impressive, their attention to detail thorough. They documented every security camera, every entrance, every potential defensive position, creating a comprehensive tactical analysis that would prove devastatingly incomplete. "Sir," Echo Team's leader reported through encrypted channels, "School. Surveillance complete. Facility offers potential strategic value. Multiple access points, minimal security, high-value civilian presence for leverage if needed." The Crown's response carried cold authority. "Excellent. Add it to the primary target list. After tonight's meeting, we'll want every pressure point identified and ready for exploitation." Sarah's tactical calculations shifted subtly as she processed their intentions. The Crimson Kings had already demonstrated professional expertise in their approach to controlling Pine Haven, but targeting the school revealed a fundamental misunderstanding of the situation they faced. Some lines, once crossed, eliminated any possibility of tactical restraint. "Ma'am," Crown said, his voice carrying measured authority that revealed his former rank, "you seem like a reasonable business owner, someone who understands pragmatic decisions." Sarah maintained her calculated position behind the coffee shop counter, noting how his stance mirrored advanced close-quarters combat training. His tactical assessment continued as she prepared another batch of coffee, her movements deliberately, or casual while maintaining perfect defensive positioning. "Your security measures are impressive," he continued, gesturing toward the reinforced doorframe. "Military grade, if I'm not mistaken. Almost like someone with experience designed them." Through her shop's sophisticated surveillance systems, Sarah tracked 3 more Crimson Kings teams, establishing observation posts across the street. Their deployment showed evidence of professional training, overlapping fields of fire, coordinated movements, communication discipline that spoke of formal tactical experience. "Funny thing about security," Sarah replied, allowing just enough steel into her voice to trigger his combat instincts. "It's often invisible until it's needed." Crown's eyes narrowed slightly, his tactical training finally registering subtle warnings about this supposedly simple encounter. "Your shooting range," he said softly, maintaining eye contact while his hand drifted closer to his concealed weapon. Custom-built, environmental controls, advanced target systems. That's not civilian equipment. Through the reflection in the coffee machine, Sarah tracked Bishop, moving to flank her position, his movement betraying SWAT training. The morning sun cast long shadows through the shop windows, creating perfect conditions for observing their tactical adjustments without seeming to pay attention. "Everyone needs a hobby," she replied, her voice carrying the kind of quiet confidence that had once commanded elite teams in classified operations. "Some of us just take them more seriously than others." Crown's radio crackled with encrypted transmissions that Sarah's enhanced hearing easily intercepted. Echo Team had completed their initial survey of Pine Haven, discovering more evidence that this quiet mountain town harbored unexpected capabilities. Their professional assessment was finally detecting anomalies that should have warned them away from this operation. "Ma'am," Crown said, his voice carrying new tension as he processed mounting tactical warnings, "I don't think you understand the opportunity we're offering. The Crimson Kings aren't just another motorcycle club. We represent substantial interests that can't be denied." Through her surveillance network, Sarah observed their forces continuing to deploy throughout town. Their numbers had grown to nearly 70 operators, their equipment suggesting significant financial backing. This wasn't simple extortion, this was a professional operation backed by serious resources. "Let me be clear," Crown continued, moving with the practiced precision of someone used to physical intimidation. "Tonight's meeting isn't a request. After sunset, Pine Haven belongs to us. Anyone who thinks otherwise will learn why the Crimson Kings have never failed to secure a target location." Sarah's slight smile carried decades of combat experience, as she noted how his proclamation revealed critical intelligence about their tactical doctrine. Their confidence stemmed from previous successes against conventional opposition. They had no experience facing capabilities that existed outside normal parameters. "Interesting choice of words," she replied, her voice carrying subtle undertones that caused Bishop to tense visibly. "Secure a target location. That's military terminology. Almost like someone's been recruiting from very specific backgrounds." Crown's expression hardened as he recognized his tactical error, revealing more about their organization's composition than intended. Through her sophisticated monitoring systems, Sarah observed Echo Team's leader approaching the coffee shop, his movement displaying the kind of precision that came from extensive special operations experience. "Sir," the new arrival reported, his voice carrying professional concern, "technical assessment reveals anomalies throughout the town. Multiple structures show evidence of advanced security measures. Someone with significant capabilities has been systematically preparing this location." Sarah watched their tactical confidence begin to erode as they processed this information. The Crimson Kings had arrived believing their numbers and training made them invincible against civilian targets. Now their professional experience was warning them that they faced unexpected complications. "Local background checks are complete," Bishop added, his combat instincts finally registering why this encounter felt increasingly dangerous. "Most residents show normal civilian profiles, but some records have interesting gaps, especially around military service dates." Crown's tactical assessment shifted visibly as he processed this new intelligence. His experience was finally detecting signs that Pine Haven wasn't the soft target their initial surveillance had suggested. Through her surveillance network, Sarah observed more of their forces arriving, their deployment reflecting growing professional concern. "This changes nothing," Crown stated, but his voice carried less certainty now. "Tonight's meeting proceeds as planned. 8 p.m. sharp. Anyone who doesn't attend learns why the Crimson Kings maintain a 100% success rate in acquiring new territory." Sarah maintained her disciplined observation as they departed, noting how their movement patterns betrayed mounting tactical anxiety. Through their encrypted communications, she intercepted growing concerns about Pine Haven's defensive preparations. Their professional assessment was finally recognizing signs that this quiet mountain town contained unexpected threats. "Sir," Echo Team's leader transmitted once they were outside, "recommend immediate tactical reassessment. Target location shows sophisticated preparation suggesting presence of advanced military capabilities." Crown's response carried forced confidence that barely masked growing uncertainty. "Maintain current protocols. Superior numbers and equipment guarantee our success. By morning, this town learns why crossing the Crimson Kings is a fatal mistake." Through her secure network, Stormwatch provided crucial intelligence about the true nature of their opposition. Multiple shell companies detected. The Crimson Kings are backed by serious corporate money. Recent financial transfers suggest connection to private military contractors. This isn't just organized crime. This is professional mercenary activity, disguised as gang violence. Sarah acknowledged the information while continuing to monitor their deployment throughout Pine Haven. Their operation showed evidence of extensive planning, sophisticated logistics, and professional tactical doctrine. But their expertise had become a liability, making them predictable to someone who understood how formal training influenced combat behavior. "Additional vehicles incoming," Nightshade reported through their secure channel. 4 black SUVs. Heavy customization suggesting private security contractors. These aren't normal gang reinforcements. This is professional military support arriving to bolster their operation. Through her sophisticated surveillance systems, Sarah tracked the new arrivals as they approached Pine Haven with tactical precision. The vehicle's modifications revealed significant financial investment. Custom armor, specialized communications equipment, the kind of advanced technology that suggested serious corporate backing. "Sir," one of Crown's lieutenants transmitted through encrypted channels, "Meridian security assets are on site. Mr. Richards is arriving with full tactical support." The mention of Meridian security immediately elevated Sarah's tactical assessment. The private military corporation had connections to classified operations she'd encountered during her service. Their presence transformed this confrontation from gang intimidation into something far more complex. Through her coffee shop's windows, Sarah observed a tall figure emerge from the lead SUV. James Richards, former Navy SEAL commander now serving as Meridian Security's Director of Operations, moved with the measured precision that marked extensive combat experience. His presence at a relatively small-scale operation indicated significantly higher stakes than territorial expansion. "Additional intelligence incoming," Sarah transmitted to her team. "Meridian's involvement suggests corporate interests beyond simple criminal activity." Cross-reference their regional operations with recent land acquisitions. The sound of rapid analysis came through her secure channel as Nightshade implemented her request. Multiple shell companies detected. They've been systematically purchasing property rights throughout the Valley Range. Pine Haven controls crucial transportation corridors for their planned operations. Through her command center's monitors, Sarah observed Richards conducting a professional assessment of the tactical situation. Unlike the Crimson King's brutal intimidation approach, Meridian Security operated with corporate precision, backed by military expertise. Their presence transformed this conflict from straightforward community defense into a complex operation against professional operators who understood advanced capabilities. "Sir," Echo Team's leader transmitted to Richards, "current situation shows concerning tactical anomalies. Target location demonstrates sophisticated preparation, suggesting presence of advanced military capabilities." Richards' response carried cold efficiency. "Elaborate." Local thermal imaging shows perfect signature elimination in multiple structures. Advanced counter-surveillance protocols detected across primary sectors. Someone with extraordinary combat experience has been systematically preparing this entire community. Sarah's slight smile carried decades of operational experience as she continued monitoring their communications. Meridian Security's professional assessment was finally recognizing signs that Pine Haven harbored threats far beyond their tactical experience. Multiple teams reporting similar concerns, another operator transmitted. Civilian movements show evidence of coordinated resistance protocols. Local businesses implementing security measures that exceed normal defensive capabilities. Through encrypted channels, Sarah intercepted growing tension in Richard's tactical assessment. Phantom's presence changes operational parameters significantly. Her capabilities exceed standard tactical responses. The mention of her former call sign confirmed that Richards had the clearance to understand exactly why certain combat operations remained classified. Unlike Crown's brute force approach, Meridian's director recognized the true implications of facing someone whose capabilities transcended normal tactical parameters. "Sir," Echo Team's leader reported urgently, "historical analysis shows systematic pattern of defensive preparation. Key positions throughout town have been quietly fortified using advanced military protocols. These aren't normal civilian security measures." Richard's response demonstrated professional recognition of the tactical situation they faced. "Implement maximum security protocols immediately. Phantom's documented capabilities specifically excel at exploiting standard operational procedures." Through her sophisticated surveillance network, Sarah watched Meridian Security's professional operators establishing advanced defensive positions throughout Pine Haven. Their deployment patterns showed intimate familiarity with her combat record, implementing countermeasures specifically designed to neutralize her exceptional capabilities. "Be advised," Stormwatch transmitted, "they're deploying advanced counter-sniper systems, professional implementation of tactical protocols, but their rush deployment is creating exploitable vulnerabilities." Sarah acknowledged the information, while activating her facility's specialized targeting systems. Years of combat experience had taught her that even professional operators became vulnerable when forcing tactical adjustments under time constraints. Meridian's hasty deployment was creating patterns that could be systematically exploited. "Sir," another operator transmitted with mounting concern, "our counter-surveillance systems are detecting sophisticated penetration attempts. Someone with extraordinary capabilities is actively mapping our tactical deployments." Through her command center's monitors, Sarah observed Richards personally directing the implementation of additional security measures. His professional expertise was evident in how he positioned his forces, establishing overlapping fields of fire designed to make precision shooting impossible. But his tactical experience had become a liability, making him predictable to someone who understood the true complexities of mountain warfare. "All units be advised," Richards transmitted, his voice carrying measured authority. "Phantom's documented operations suggest she can defeat even our most advanced detection systems. Maintain maximum tactical awareness regardless of security protocols." Sarah's secure system pinged with new intelligence from Nightshade. They're establishing redundant communication networks, but their rush deployment is compromising normal security procedures. Professional operators are showing signs of tactical stress. The mountain sun continued its descent toward the western peaks as Sarah monitored Meridian's mounting anxiety. Their sophisticated approach had demonstrated every aspect of professional military operations, but their expertise had made them vulnerable to capabilities that existed outside normal combat parameters. "Multiple teams implementing final security measures," Stormwatch reported. "They're creating overlapping defensive coverage, but their professional concern is causing gaps in their tactical positions. Through encrypted channels, Sarah intercepted growing uncertainty in Meridian's communications. Their professional operators were finally recognizing signs that Pinehaven harbored threats far beyond their operational experience, but corporate pressure wouldn't allow them to withdraw from an increasingly dangerous situation. "Sir," Echo. Team's leader transmitted with evident concern, "Recommend immediate tactical reassessment. Target location shows evidence of systematic preparation by someone with extraordinary combat capabilities." Richard's response carried careful precision. "Understood. Maintain current deployment patterns, but implement maximum security protocols. Phantom's presence requires exceptional caution." Through her sophisticated surveillance network, Sarah watched Meridian's professional operators continuing their preparations for the evening's confrontation. Their tactical expertise was evident in their methodology, but their mounting anxiety was causing them to implement increasingly complex security measures that actually created exploitable vulnerabilities. "They're overcompensating," she transmitted to her team. "Their tactical concern is causing them to layer multiple defensive protocols, creating gaps in their coverage patterns, maintain current observation positions." The mountain winds shifted again as sunset approached, carrying the sound of professional operators implementing increasingly desperate security measures. Meridian had arrived with sophisticated tactical expertise, but now their military experience was warning them that they faced capabilities beyond their understanding. Crown approached Richards at the command post, his earlier confidence noticeably diminished. "Your people seem concerned. This is still just one operator we're dealing with." Richard's response carried the weight of someone who had studied classified combat records. That one operator rewrote the parameters of what's possible in precision combat. Her documented capabilities specifically exploit the kind of rushed deployment we're implementing. Through her sophisticated monitoring systems, Sarah observed growing tension between the Crimson King's aggressive approach and Meridian's professional caution. The merged forces had committed significant resources to securing Pinehaven, but their competing tactical doctrines were creating perfect conditions for the kind of precision response she had spent years perfecting. "Sir," another operator transmitted. "Urgently, thermal imaging shows advanced shielding throughout multiple structures. Someone with extraordinary tactical experience has been systematically preparing this location for potential conflict." Through her command center's advanced monitoring systems, Sarah observed Richards personally reviewing mounting evidence that their tactical approach had been fundamentally flawed. His professional expertise was causing him to implement increasingly sophisticated security protocols, creating patterns that could be systematically exploited by someone with her particular capabilities. "Additional movement at command post," Nightshade reported. "They're attempting to establish complete defensive coverage, but their professional anxiety is compromising normal tactical procedures." Sarah's slight smile carried decades of operational experience as she continued monitoring their growing uncertainty. Meridian had arrived confident in their military expertise, but now their professional training was warning them that they faced threats beyond their tactical understanding. As the afternoon sun cast deepening shadows across Pinehaven, Sarah received a new transmission that transformed the operational dynamics of the entire situation. Her surveillance systems intercepted communications, revealing that Meridian security was merely the visible element of a much larger corporate enterprise. "New intelligence confirmed," Stormwatch reported, "tracking substantial financial transfers through offshore accounts. The Crimson Kings and Meridian Security are both operating under contract to Nova Frontier Corporation. Their entire regional expansion is part of a coordinated corporate takeover of key transportation routes." Sarah's tactical assessment shifted as she processed this information. Nova Frontier's involvement elevated this confrontation from local defense to strategic corporate warfare. Their resources were virtually unlimited, their influence extending into classified government operations she had encountered during her military career. Through her sophisticated monitoring systems, she observed a sleek corporate helicopter approaching. Pine Haven. The arrival of Nova Frontier's executive leadership would add another layer of complexity to the tactical situation, transforming a professional military operation into a corporate-driven assault that would test the full scope of her capabilities. The Crimson Kings had been chosen as the visible face of this operation precisely because they appeared to be simple criminals. Meridian Security provided professional military expertise when brute force failed, but Nova Frontier's direct involvement revealed the true scale of what they planned for Pine Haven: complete control of strategic mountain routes, regardless of the tactical cost. Sarah's expression hardened as she watched their forces continuing to deploy throughout town. They had chosen Pine Haven believing its isolation made it vulnerable. They were about to learn why some capabilities remained classified even years after leaving active service, why some threats remained dormant until the precise moment of engagement. Sarah. Mitchell's classified military records remained heavily redacted even years after her retirement from Delta Force. The pages that weren't completely blacked out told only fragments of her story. Distinguished service, unprecedented mission, success rates, and commendations that hinted at operations too sensitive for documentation. What the records couldn't reveal was how she had fundamentally changed the parameters of what was possible in precision combat. Under her call sign Phantom, she had achieved shots that military experts had considered theoretically impossible, engaging targets at distances that exceeded the established limits of ballistic science. Through her coffee shop surveillance systems, Sarah observed Nova Frontier's corporate helicopter landing at the temporary command post. The arrival of executive leadership had triggered increased chatter among the professional operators, their encrypted communications revealing growing concern about facing someone whose capabilities remained classified. "Sir," Echo Team's leader transmitted to Richards, historical analysis of the target's military record shows significant gaps. Security clearance levels exceed our access. Combat documentation heavily redacted, but available fragments suggest unprecedented operational capabilities. Richard's response carried the weight of someone who had accessed certain classified files. Phantom's documented operations redefined what we considered possible in precision combat. During the Isfahan incident, she engaged multiple targets at ranges that violated accepted ballistic limitations. Sarah's slight smile carried the memory of that particular mission. The shots she had made that day had forced military experts to reconsider their understanding of atmospheric ballistics. The complex calculations she had developed, accounting for variables that most operators didn't even know existed, had established new parameters for what was achievable in precision combat. Through their secure channel, Stormwatch provided additional intelligence about the growing tactical situation. Nova Frontier executive Victor Chen is on site with full security detail. Corporate leadership's arrival suggests this operation has strategic importance beyond normal acquisition protocols. Sarah maintained her disciplined observation as Chen emerged from the helicopter, his tailored suit contrasting sharply with the tactical gear worn by his security team. His presence confirmed that Pine Haven had become the focus of corporate interests that extended far beyond simple territorial control. "Ma'am," Crown said as he re-entered the coffee shop, his earlier aggression tempered by new information, "there seems to be some confusion about your background. Perhaps we could discuss this situation more professionally," Sarah continued. Wiping down the counter, her movements deliberately casual while maintaining perfect tactical positioning. No confusion at all. I chose Pine Haven specifically because quiet towns are worth protecting. The confusion seems to be on your side, thinking that superior numbers guarantee tactical success. Crown's combat instincts registered the warning. In her words, his professional experience finally recognizing signs that this supposedly simple operation had encountered unexpected complications. Through her surveillance systems, Sarah watched more corporate security teams establishing positions throughout town, their deployment reflecting growing anxiety about the true nature of the threat they faced. "Your Delta Force record, Crown," said softly, maintaining eye contact while his hand drifted toward his concealed weapon, or what's left of it after redaction, makes for interesting reading. Particularly the parts about rewriting the parameters of precision combat. Sarah's expression remained neutral, but her voice carried subtle undertones that caused Crown's tactical training to register immediate warnings. Some capabilities exist, outside normal parameters. Some threats remain dormant until they're needed. You might want to consider that while you're photographing my daughter's school. The deliberate mention of her classified capabilities caused Crown to take an involuntary step backward, his combat experience finally processing exactly why certain military records remained heavily redacted. Through encrypted channels, Sarah intercepted mounting concern in their tactical communications. "Sir," Echo Team's leader transmitted urgently, "recommend immediate reassessment of operational parameters. Target's military background suggests capabilities that exceed our tactical doctrine. The Isfahan incident alone demonstrates engagement abilities that violate normal combat limitations." Richard's response reflected professional recognition of the situation they faced. Phantom's documented operations forced military experts to redefine what we considered possible in precision combat. Her ability to calculate complex atmospheric variables created new parameters for long-range engagement. Through her sophisticated surveillance network, Sarah observed Chen personally reviewing her heavily redacted military record. The Nova Frontier. Executive's expression betrayed growing concern as he processed the implications of facing someone whose capabilities remained classified even years after leaving active service. "Colonel Richards," Chen transmitted through their secure channel, "explain exactly why this operator's presence changes our tactical assessment. One person, regardless of military background, cannot significantly impact an operation of this scale." Richard's response carried carefully controlled tension. "Sir, during her final documented operation, Phantom engaged multiple targets at ranges that technical experts had classified as impossible. Her understanding of complex atmospheric variables allowed her to achieve shots that violated accepted ballistic limitations. We're facing someone who literally rewrote the parameters of what's possible in precision combat." Sarah maintained her disciplined observation as Nova Frontier's leadership struggled to process the implications of her military background. Their sophisticated operation had committed significant resources to securing Pine Haven, but now their professional expertise was warning them that they faced capabilities beyond their tactical understanding. "Additional intelligence confirmed," Nightshade reported through their secure channel. "Nova Frontier's operational database contains fragments of classified mission reports. The Isfahan incident forced military experts to establish new categories for precision combat capabilities. Some of Phantom's documented shots required calculations that exceeded existing ballistic models." Through her coffee shop's windows, Sarah watched their forces implementing increasingly sophisticated security measures. Their professional training was causing them to layer multiple defensive protocols, creating complex patterns that actually made them more vulnerable to the kind of precision response she had spent years perfecting. "Sir, another operator transmitted. With mounting concern, historical analysis shows a pattern of systematic preparation. Target's military experience suggests capabilities specifically designed to exploit rushed tactical deployment. Her documented operations demonstrate the ability to defeat even advanced counter-sniper systems. Sarah's slight smile carried decades of combat experience as she continued monitoring their growing uncertainty. The Crimson Kings had arrived, believing their numbers made them invincible. Meridian Security had deployed professional military expertise. Now Nova Frontier's corporate leadership was finally recognizing that they faced capabilities that transcended normal tactical parameters. Through encrypted channels, Sarah intercepted a crucial transmission that revealed another layer of her adversary's mounting concern. "Sir," Bishop reported to the Crown, "we've accessed fragments of classified training records. The target didn't just excel at standard sniper protocols, she completely rewrote them. Her training methods forced military experts to develop new categories for precision combat capabilities." Sarah's military career had begun conventionally enough. Her natural talent for precision shooting had caught the attention of Delta Force recruiters early in her service, but it was her unique approach to complex atmospheric variables that had truly set her apart. While other snipers worked within established ballistic limitations, she had developed new mathematical models that accounted for previously ignored environmental factors. Additional data recovered, Echo Team's leader transmitted to Richards. Target's documented training innovations led to complete revision of advanced sniper protocols. Her methods for calculating complex atmospheric variables created new standards for precision combat operations. Through her sophisticated surveillance network, Sarah observed Chen reviewing more fragments of her classified record. The Nova Frontier executive's expression showed growing recognition that his corporate resources meant little against capabilities that had fundamentally changed military doctrine. Her final documented operation, Richards explained to Chen, his voice carrying professional respect, involved engaging multiple targets during a severe sandstorm. Existing ballistic models classified accurate shooting under those conditions as impossible. She proved those models wrong, forcing military experts to reconsider what was achievable in precision combat. Sarah allowed herself a moment of reflection as she monitored their communications. That sandstorm operation had marked the peak of her military career. Multiple confirmed targets at extreme ranges through environmental conditions that should have made accurate shooting impossible. The classified reports couldn't capture how she had integrated complex atmospheric calculations with almost supernatural patience, waiting for perfect moments that only she could recognize. "Sir," another operator transmitted urgently, "recovered training documentation shows she developed new protocols for exploiting adverse weather conditions. Standard counter-sniper measures assume normal tactical limitations. Her capabilities exist outside those parameters." Through her coffee shop's windows, Sarah watched their forces continuing to establish defensive positions throughout Pine Haven. Their professional training was causing them to implement increasingly sophisticated security measures, but their tactical doctrine remained firmly grounded in limitations she had transcended years ago. "Mr. Chen," Richards transmitted through their secure channel, "you need to understand exactly what we're facing. This isn't just another former military operator. Phantom fundamentally changed how we approach precision combat. Her documented capabilities specifically excel at exploiting the kind of rushed deployment we're implementing." Sarah's secure system pinged with new intelligence from Stormwatch. Corporate leadership reviewing classified mission reports. They're accessing documentation about the Morocco incident, the operation that established new records for precision, engagement under complex atmospheric conditions. The Morocco operation had represented another breakthrough in her development of advanced combat capabilities. Under conditions that traditional ballistic models classified as impossible for accurate shooting, she had engaged multiple targets while accounting for variables that most operators didn't even know existed. "Sir," Echo Team's leader reported, "with mounting concern, historical analysis shows systematic patterns of innovation. Target didn't just operate within tactical parameters, she actively expanded them. Her documented operations demonstrate consistent ability to achieve results that violate accepted limitations." Through her sophisticated surveillance network, Sarah observed growing tension between Nova Frontier's corporate confidence and Meridian's professional caution. Chen's determination to secure Pine Haven was colliding with Richard's understanding of exactly why certain military records remained heavily redacted. Additional intelligence confirmed, Nightshade transmitted through their secure channel, accessing classified training documents, targets methods for calculating complex environmental variables, created new categories for precision combat capabilities. Standard tactical responses may be fundamentally inadequate. Sarah maintained her disciplined observation as their forces continued deploying throughout town. The Crimson Kings had arrived with brutal confidence. Meridian security had deployed professional expertise, and Nova Frontier had committed virtually unlimited resources. But none of their preparations accounted for capabilities that existed outside normal tactical parameters. "Mr. Chen," Richards transmitted, his voice carrying careful precision, "I need you to understand something crucial about our tactical situation. During her military career, Phantom didn't just excel at precision combat. She fundamentally changed our understanding of what was possible. Her documented operations forced experts to reconsider basic assumptions about ballistic limitations. Through encrypted channels, Sarah intercepted mounting concern among their professional operators. Their military training was finally recognizing signs that this quiet mountain town harbored threats far beyond their tactical experience. The sophisticated operation they had planned was about to encounter capabilities that transcended normal combat parameters. "Sir," Bishop transmitted to the Crown, analyzing recovered training documentation, Target's innovations in precision combat went beyond normal tactical evolution. She developed completely new approaches to complex atmospheric variables, creating capabilities that existing countermeasures weren't designed to handle. Sarah's slight smile carried decades of combat experience as she continued monitoring their growing uncertainty. Her military career had been defined by transcending accepted limitations, by developing capabilities that forced experts to reconsider what was possible in precision combat. Now those same capabilities would prove why some threats remained dormant until the perfect moment of engagement. Sarah's sophisticated monitoring systems detected a significant shift in Nova Frontier's tactical operations as their forces continued deploying throughout Pine Haven. Through her coffee shop's surveillance network, she observed Victor Chen personally, directing the establishment of additional security measures, his corporate authority forcing professional operators to compromise tactical discipline in favor of aggressive deployment. "Status update," she transmitted to her team through their secure channel. "Corporate leadership is accelerating the operational timeline. Their rushed deployment is creating exploitable vulnerabilities in defensive positions." Stormwatch's response came back with practiced efficiency, confirmed multiple teams establishing elevated positions without proper preparation. Their professional anxiety is causing significant gaps in counter-sniper coverage. Through encrypted channels, Sarah intercepted mounting tension in Nova Frontier's tactical communications. Chen's determination to secure Pine Haven by nightfall was forcing Richards to implement security protocols at a pace that violated basic military doctrine. Sir, Echo Team's leader transmitted urgently, accelerated deployment is compromising our defensive integrity. Counter-sniper systems require precise calibration to maintain effectiveness in these mountain conditions. Current timeline degrades system accuracy by at least 50%. Chen's response demonstrated complete prioritization of corporate objectives over tactical considerations. Acceptable risk factor. Maintain accelerated advancement. Time constraints. Now take priority over technical precision. Sarah's slight smile carried decades of combat experience as she monitored their deteriorating tactical cohesion. Through her sophisticated surveillance systems, she watched professional operators implementing increasingly desperate security measures as corporate pressure systematically undermined their military expertise. Additional intelligence confirmed, Nightshade reported through their secure channel, corporate security teams operating on separate tactical frequencies. Their aggressive deployment is creating significant communication gaps between different operational elements. Through her coffee shop's windows, Sarah observed more forces arriving from secondary approaches. The Crimson King's visible presence had grown to nearly 80 operators, while Meridian Security and Nova Frontier's corporate teams added another 40 professional contractors to their numbers. Sir, Bishop transmitted to Crown with growing concern, corporate timeline is forcing us to abandon basic security protocols. Rush deployment creates perfect conditions for precision interdiction, especially given the target's documented capabilities. Sarah maintained her disciplined observation as their sophisticated operation continued deteriorating under corporate pressure. Years of combat experience had taught her that even professional operators became vulnerable when forced to compromise. Tactical discipline in favor of aggressive advancement. Multiple teams showing critical stress, Stormwatch reported. Their accelerated deployment has eliminated basic security coverage. Corporate timeline has effectively neutralized their professional capabilities. Through her command center's advanced monitoring systems, Sarah tracked their mounting anxiety as Nova Frontier's aggressive schedule forced them to abandon careful protocols in favor of rush deployment. Their sophisticated technology became increasingly unreliable as corporate pressure systematically undermined military expertise. Sir, Echo Team's leader transmitted with evident frustration, our counter-sniper systems are showing complete calibration failure. Environmental variables have exceeded rush deployment parameters. We've lost effective tracking capability. Chen's response reflected total abandonment of tactical consideration. Proceed with an accelerated timeline. Superior numbers will overwhelm any technical advantage. This operation concludes tonight, regardless of system limitations. Sarah's secure system pinged with updated intelligence from Nightshade. Corporate leadership implementing final acceleration protocols. Their aggressive timeline has effectively eliminated tactical discipline among professional operators. Through encrypted channels, she intercepted the mounting alarm in Meridian's tactical communications. Their military training recognized the perfect conditions being created for precision response, but corporate authority left them no choice but to continue their compromised deployment. Sir, another operator transmitted urgently, recommend immediate tactical reassessment. Rush deployment has compromised basic security protocols. We're creating perfect conditions for precision interdiction. Sarah watched through her sophisticated surveillance network as Chen personally directed the implementation of final security measures. The Nova Frontier executives' determination to achieve immediate results had transformed their professional operation into a perfect demonstration of corporate hubris and overwhelming military expertise. Multiple teams initiating uncoordinated advancement, Stormwatch reported. Their professional cohesion has completely collapsed. Corporate pressure has transformed tactical expertise into liability. Through her command center's advanced monitoring systems, Sarah observed the systematic deterioration of their defensive positions. The sophisticated operation that had initially threatened Pine Haven had devolved into exactly the kind of rushed deployment that her capabilities were perfectly suited to exploit. "Sir," Echo Team's communication specialist transmitted with mounting urgency, detecting multiple anomalies across all security networks. "Our rush deployment has compromised basic counter-surveillance measures." Sarah maintained her disciplined observation as Nova Frontier's aggressive timeline continued degrading their operational effectiveness. The sophisticated technology that had initially made them such a significant threat became increasingly unreliable as corporate pressure mounted. "All units implement final assault procedures," Chen transmitted, his voice carrying the absolute authority of someone unused to military restraint. "Nova Frontier's board meets at dawn. This situation concludes tonight regardless of tactical objections." Richards's response carried the quiet tension of a professional operator watching disaster unfold. "Sir, with respect, we're creating optimal conditions for precision interdiction. Phantom's documented capabilities specifically excel at exploiting rushed tactical movement." Through encrypted channels, Sarah intercepted increasing alarm among their professional operators. Their military training recognized the fatal flaws being created by corporate pressure, but Nova Frontier's authority left them no choice but to continue their compromised advance. "Multiple teams showing critical dysfunction," Nightshade reported. "Their accelerated deployment has eliminated basic security coverage. Corporate timeline has effectively neutered their professional capabilities." Sarah acknowledged the information while finalizing her tactical assessment. Through her sophisticated surveillance network, she watched their forces continuing to establish compromised positions throughout Pine Haven. Each rush deployment created new vulnerabilities that could be systematically exploited. "Sir," Echo Team's leader transmitted with final warning, "our counter-sniper systems are showing complete malfunction. Environmental variables have exceeded rushed calibration parameters. We've lost effective targeting capability." Chen's response demonstrated total abandonment of military wisdom. "Proceed with an aggressive timeline. Superior numbers will overwhelm any tactical advantage. This ends now." Through her command center's advanced monitoring systems, Sarah initiated her prepared response sequence. Decades of combat experience guided each precise calculation as she noted every vulnerability created by their rushed deployment. "Additional corporate security teams are arriving," Stormwatch reported. "They're implementing aggressive protocols distinct from Meridian's military doctrine, counting 24 new teams moving with corporate efficiency but limited tactical awareness." Sarah maintained her disciplined observation as Nova Frontier's sophisticated operation continued deteriorating under corporate pressure. Their advanced technology and professional expertise became progressively less effective as Chen's aggressive timeline forced them to abandon careful protocols. "Sir," another operator transmitted urgently, "recommend immediate withdrawal. Rush deployment has compromised. All security measures were creating perfect conditions for precision interdiction." Through encrypted channels, Sarah intercepted mounting panic in their tactical communications as sophisticated technology failed against precision expertise. Each compromised deployment created new opportunities for the kind of calculated response she had spent years perfecting. "Multiple teams showing complete tactical collapse," Nightshade reported. "Their professional discipline has been systematically eliminated. Each rushed advancement is creating additional coordination breakdown." Sarah watched through her command center's monitors as Chen personally directed their final preparations. Nova Frontier's determination to achieve immediate results had transformed their sophisticated operation into a perfect demonstration of corporate hubris and overwhelming military expertise. "Sir," Echo Team's leader transmitted with growing urgency, "Ghost's precision capabilities specifically exploit this type of aggressive, uncoordinated advancement. Recommend immediate tactical withdrawal while we maintain mobility." Through her sophisticated surveillance network, Sarah observed their mounting realization that corporate pressure had created perfect conditions for demonstrating why her capabilities remained legendary in special operations circles. Each precisely calculated response would continue dismantling their rush deployment. "All units confirm final positions," Chen transmitted, his voice carrying forced confidence that barely masked growing uncertainty. "Nova Frontier's board requires operational control by morning. Tactical considerations are now secondary to timeline completion." Sarah maintained her disciplined observation as their sophisticated operation devolved into increasingly desperate tactical adjustments. The advanced technology and military expertise that had initially made them formidable had been systematically compromised by corporate pressure. "Sir," Crown transmitted with evident concern, "recommend immediate reassessment. Our rushed deployment has eliminated basic security protocols. We're creating optimal conditions for precision interdiction." Through her command center's advanced monitoring systems, Sarah watched their final preparations with professional appreciation for how thoroughly corporate pressure had compromised their tactical effectiveness. The sophisticated operation that had initially threatened Pine Haven had devolved into exactly the kind of rush deployment that her capabilities were perfectly suited to exploit. "They've created perfect conditions," she transmitted to her team. "Corporate pressure has effectively neutralized their military expertise. Maintain current observation protocols while they continue compromising their tactical integrity." The mountain winds shifted again as sunset approached, carrying the sound of rush deployment as Nova Frontier's aggressive timeline forced professional operators to abandon fundamental security protocols. Soon, they would learn why certain combat capabilities remained classified, why some threats remained dormant until the precise moment of engagement. The first test of Sarah's capabilities came earlier than Nova Frontier had planned. Through her sophisticated surveillance network, she detected two Crimson Kings operators moving aggressively toward Tom's hardware store, their body language suggesting imminent violence rather than simple intimidation. "Multiple hostiles approaching Sector 4, she transmitted to her team through their secure channel. "Tactical profile indicates immediate threat to civilian assets, implementing precision response protocols." Stormwatch's voice came back with practice deficiency. "Confirmed. Targets moving with aggressive intent. Local wind patterns showing complex variation at ground level, calculating optimal response vectors." Through her coffee shop's windows, Sarah observed Tom Cooper backing away from the advancing operators. The elderly store owner's refusal to accept their protection had triggered an immediate escalation, exactly the kind of impulsive response that created exploitable tactical opportunities. "Last chance, old man," the first operator growled, his hand moving toward a concealed weapon. "Sign the agreement now, or we demonstrate why crossing the Crimson Kings is a fatal mistake." Sarah's first shot arrived long before the sound reached them. The operator's weapon, a modified automatic still in its holster, disintegrated in a precise demonstration of ballistic perfection. The second shot arrived a microsecond later, destroying his partner's sidearm with equal precision. "Sir," Echo Team's leader transmitted urgently through their encrypted channels, two operators reporting complete weapon failure. Precision shots from unknown positions eliminated their sidearms without causing personal injury. Richard's response carried professional recognition of what they faced. "Confirmed. This is exactly the kind of precision demonstration that made Phantom legendary in classified operations. She's sending a tactical message. Through her sophisticated monitoring systems, Sarah watched their forces implementing increasingly aggressive security measures. The calculated precision of her response had triggered exactly the kind of rushed deployment that created additional vulnerabilities. "All units be advised," Crown transmitted, his voice carrying forced authority that barely masked growing concern. "Implement maximum security protocols. Unknown Sniper has demonstrated advanced precision capabilities." Sarah maintained her disciplined observation as their professional operators scrambled to establish defensive positions. The systematic destruction of their weapons had been precisely calculated to demonstrate capabilities that existed outside normal tactical parameters. "Sir," another operator transmitted with mounting urgency, "ballistic analysis shows impossible shot angles. Someone with extraordinary capabilities is exploiting complex atmospheric variables to achieve precision effects that violate normal combat limitations." Through encrypted channels, Sarah intercepted growing panic in their tactical communications. The calculated precision of her response had confirmed their worst fears about facing someone whose capabilities remained classified even years after leaving active service. Multiple teams requested immediate support, Stormwatch reported. "Their professional discipline is showing significant deterioration. Precision demonstration has created mounting tactical stress." Sarah's slight smile carried decades of combat experience as she monitored their growing uncertainty. The Crimson Kings had arrived believing their numbers made them invincible. Now they were learning why some capabilities remained dormant until the perfect moment of engagement. "Sir," Bishop transmitted to the Crown with evident concern, "recommend immediate tactical reassessment. Target has demonstrated precision capabilities that exceed our operational parameters." Through her sophisticated surveillance network, Sarah observed Chen personally directing the implementation of additional security measures. The Nova Frontier executive's corporate confidence was colliding with the reality of facing capabilities that transcended normal tactical limitations. "All units maintain aggressive posture," Chen transmitted, his voice carrying the kind of authority that came from never facing truly superior opposition. "2 lucky shots don't change our operational timeline. Proceed with accelerated deployment." Richards's response reflected professional understanding of exactly what they faced. "Sir, with respect, those weren't lucky shots. Phantom specifically demonstrated precision capabilities that exceed normal combat limitations. She could have easily eliminated those operators instead of just destroying their weapons." Sarah acknowledged the accuracy of his assessment while continuing to monitor their mounting tactical stress. Through her command center's advanced systems, she watched their forces implementing increasingly desperate security measures as corporate pressure collided with military reality. "Additional teams arriving at primary approaches," Nightshade reported. "They're establishing rushed defensive positions without proper tactical preparation. Corporate timeline is creating significant vulnerabilities in their security coverage." Through encrypted channels, Sarah intercepted mounting concern in their tactical communications as professional operators struggled to process the implications of her precision demonstration. The calculated destruction of their weapons had revealed capabilities that existed far beyond their combat experience. "Sir," Echo Team's leader transmitted with growing urgency, "ballistic analysis confirms shots were achieved at angles that violate accepted limitations. Target is demonstrating precision capabilities that specifically exploit complex atmospheric variables." Sarah maintained her disciplined observation as their forces continued establishing compromised positions throughout Pine Haven. The systematic precision of her response had created exactly the kind of tactical stress that led to exploitable vulnerabilities. Multiple teams showing critical dysfunction, Stormwatch reported. Precision demonstration has effectively destroyed their tactical confidence. Corporate pressure is forcing them to implement increasingly desperate security measures. Through her sophisticated surveillance network, Sarah watched their mounting realization that superior numbers meant nothing against capabilities that transcended normal combat parameters. The calculated precision of her response had demonstrated exactly why certain military records remained heavily redacted. "Sir," another operator transmitted with mounting urgency, "recommend immediate tactical withdrawal. Target has demonstrated capabilities that specifically exploit standard defensive positions. Our current deployment protocols are critically vulnerable." Through her command center's monitors, Sarah watched their professional operators implementing increasingly desperate security measures. The systematic precision of her demonstration had triggered exactly the kind of rushed response that created additional tactical opportunities. Multiple teams establishing elevated positions, Stormwatch reported. Their deployment shows significant deterioration in tactical discipline. Security coverage has critical gaps due to the accelerated timeline. Sarah maintained her disciplined observation as Nova Frontiers forces continued their compromised deployment throughout Pine Haven. Each rushed response to her precision demonstration created new vulnerabilities that could be systematically exploited. "Sir," Echo Team's leader transmitted to Richards, "ballistic analysis confirms impossible shot trajectories. Target is achieving precision effects that violate normal atmospheric limitations. Standard counter-sniper protocols are ineffective." Through encrypted channels, Sarah intercepted growing tension between corporate authority and military expertise. Chen's determination to maintain aggressive deployment directly conflicted with Richard's understanding of the capabilities they effaced. "All units proceed with an established timeline," Chen transmitted, his voice carrying forced confidence that barely masked mounting concern. "Too precise shots don't change operational parameters. Superior numbers guarantee our tactical advantage." Sarah's slight smile carried decades of combat experience as she monitored their deteriorating tactical cohesion. The calculated precision of her response had demonstrated capabilities that existed far beyond normal combat parameters. Additional forces arriving from secondary approaches, Nightshade reported. Corporate security teams implement aggressive protocols without proper tactical preparation. Their rushed deployment creates perfect conditions for precision interdiction. Through her sophisticated surveillance network, Sarah observed their mounting realization that superior numbers meant nothing against capabilities that transcended normal tactical limitations. The systematic destruction of their weapons had revealed precision effects that violated accepted combat doctrine. "Sir," Bishop transmitted with growing urgency, "Target's demonstration suggests capabilities specifically designed to exploit rushed deployment. Recommend immediate revision of tactical protocols." Sarah watched through her command center's advanced systems as their forces struggled to maintain operational cohesion. The calculated precision of her response had triggered exactly the kind of tactical stress that led to exploitable vulnerabilities. Multiple teams showing critical dysfunction, Stormwatch reported. Precision demonstration has effectively destroyed their professional confidence. Corporate pressure is forcing increasingly desperate security measures. Through encrypted channels, Sarah intercepted mounting panic in their tactical communications. The systematic destruction of their weapons had confirmed their worst fears about facing someone whose capabilities remained classified even years after leaving active service. "Sir," Echo Team's leader transmitted to Chen, "ballistic analysis shows completely impossible shot angles. Target is demonstrating precision capabilities that specifically exploit complex atmospheric variables. Our current defensive positions are fundamentally vulnerable. Sarah maintained her disciplined observation as Nova Frontier's sophisticated operation continued deteriorating under mounting tactical stress. The calculated precision of her response had demonstrated exactly why some capabilities remained dormant. Until the perfect moment of engagement, additional teams arriving at primary approaches, Nightshade reported. They're establishing rushed defensive positions without proper tactical preparation. Corporate Timeline is creating significant vulnerabilities in their security coverage. Through her command center's advanced monitoring systems, Sarah watched their forces implementing increasingly desperate security measures. The systematic precision of her demonstration had triggered exactly the kind of rushed response that created perfect conditions for further tactical exploitation. "Sir," another operator transmitted urgently, "recommend immediate reassessment of operational parameters. Target has demonstrated precision capabilities that specifically exploit standard defensive positions. Our current deployment protocols are critically vulnerable." Sarah's secure system pinged with updated intelligence from Stormwatch. Corporate leadership implementing aggressive acceleration protocols. Their rushed deployment shows complete abandonment of tactical discipline. Through their sophisticated monitoring network, she observed Chen personally directing the implementation of additional security measures. The Nova Frontier executive's corporate confidence was rapidly eroding in the face of capabilities that transcended normal tactical limitations. "All units maintain aggressive posture," Chen transmitted, but his voice carried growing uncertainty. "Proceed with accelerated deployment regardless of precision demonstration. Superior numbers will overwhelm any tactical advantage." Rich's response reflected professional understanding of exactly what they faced. "Sir, with respect, the target just demonstrated precision capabilities that specifically exploit rushed deployment. Maintaining an aggressive timeline creates perfect conditions for systematic interdiction." Sarah acknowledged the accuracy of his assessment while continuing to monitor their mounting tactical stress. The calculated precision of her response had demonstrated exactly why some combat capabilities remained classified even years after leaving active service. The transformation of Pine Haven's tactical situation reached a critical turning point as Sarah's sophisticated monitoring systems detected new vehicles approaching from the northern access road. Through her command center's advanced surveillance network, she observed 3 black armored SUVs moving with the kind of precision that spoke of elite military contractors rather than standard corporate security. Multiple vehicles incoming, Stormwatch reported through their secure channel. Different tactical profile from previous units, advanced equipment, special forces protocols. These aren't standard Nova Frontier assets. Sarah's tactical assessment shifted as she identified subtle markings on the vehicles. "Chimera Group," she transmitted back, "elite military contractors. They specialize in classified operations that even Meridian security won't touch." Through encrypted channels, she intercepted urgent communications between Chen and his corporate superiors. "Sir, Chimera assets have arrived. Commander Jackson is on site with full tactical team." The mention of Chimera Group immediately elevated the stakes. The private military corporation operated exclusively in classified environments, their operations often intersecting with the kind of missions that had earned Sarah her legendary status. "Confirmed visual on Commander Jackson," Nightshade reported. "Former Delta Force, specialized in counter-sniper operations. His presence suggests Nova Frontier is implementing maximum response protocols." Sarah maintained her disciplined observation as Jackson emerged from the lead vehicle. His movement displayed the kind of tactical awareness that came from extensive combat experience. his assessment of the situation reflecting intimate familiarity with advanced precision capabilities. "Sir," Echo Team's leader transmitted to Chen, "Chimera's arrival significantly changes tactical parameters. Their specialized equipment includes prototype counter-sniper systems designed specifically for engaging superior precision operators." Through her sophisticated surveillance network, Sarah watched Jackson conducting a professional assessment of the situation. Unlike Nova Frontier's corporate approach or Meridian's standard military protocols, Chimera Group operated with the kind of specialized expertise that acknowledged capabilities beyond normal tactical limitations. "Status update," Jackson transmitted, his voice carrying measured authority that spoke of classified experience. "Targets demonstrated precision suggests capabilities consistent with Project Echo protocols. Standard counter-sniper measures will be ineffective." Sarah's slight smile carried decades of operational experience. Project Echo had been a classified program focused on developing precision combat capabilities that transcended normal tactical limitations. Her participation had helped establish new parameters for what was possible in long-range engagement. Multiple teams implementing specialized protocols, Stormwatch reported. Chimera's deployment shows intimate familiarity with advanced precision capabilities. They're establishing countermeasures specifically designed for Project Echo operators. Through her command center's advanced monitoring systems, Sarah observed Chimera Group's professional operators establishing sophisticated defensive positions throughout Pine Haven. Their deployment reflected an intimate understanding of capabilities that existed outside normal combat parameters. "Sir," Jackson transmitted to Chen, "historical analysis confirms the target's involvement in Project Echo. Her documented capabilities specifically excel at exploiting standard tactical responses. Recommend immediate revision of operational parameters." Sarah maintained her disciplined observation as Nova Frontier's corporate leadership struggled to process these implications. Through encrypted channels, she intercepted mounting concern in their tactical communications. "Commander Jackson," Chen transmitted, his voice carrying growing uncertainty, "explain exactly how the target's Project Echo capabilities impact our operational timeline." Jackson's response reflected professional understanding of exactly what they faced. "Sir, Project Echo operators develop precision combat capabilities that transcend normal tactical limitations. Their understanding of complex atmospheric variables allows them to achieve effects that violate accepted ballistic parameters." Through her sophisticated surveillance network, Sarah watched Chimera Group's specialized equipment being deployed throughout town. Their advanced technology represented the cutting edge of counter-sniper systems, designed specifically to engage operators whose capabilities exceeded normal combat limitations. Additional forces establishing specialized positions, Nightshade, reported. Chimera's deployment shows intimate familiarity with Project Echo protocols. Their countermeasures are specifically calibrated for advanced precision capabilities. Sarah acknowledged the information while continuing to monitor their sophisticated deployment. Chimera Group's arrival had transformed this confrontation from standard corporate takeover to specialized military operation against documented Project Echo capabilities. "Sir," Echo Team's leader transmitted with mounting concern, "Chimera's presence confirms targets' involvement in classified programs. Their specialized equipment suggests capabilities far beyond normal tactical parameters." Through encrypted channels, Sarah intercepted growing tension between corporate authority and specialized military expertise. Chen's determination to maintain aggressive deployment directly conflicted with Jackson's understanding of Project Echo capabilities. "All units implement maximum security protocols," Jackson transmitted, his voice carrying the kind of authority that came from classified experience. Target's Project Echo training allows her to exploit standard tactical responses. Conventional counter-sniper measures will be ineffective. Sarah's secure system pinged with updated intelligence from Stormwatch. Chimera teams deploying prototype detection grids. Their equipment shows significant advances in counter-sniper technology, specifically designed for engaging Project Echo operators. Through her sophisticated monitoring network, she observed Jackson personally directing the establishment of specialized defensive positions. His tactical expertise reflected intimate familiarity with capabilities that transcended normal combat. "In parameters, sir," another operator transmitted urgently. "Chimera's deployment confirms the severity of the tactical situation. Their specialized equipment suggests the target possesses capabilities beyond normal military classification." Sarah maintained her disciplined observation as Nova Frontier's sophisticated operation continued evolving to address Project Echo capabilities. The arrival of Chimera Group had confirmed their worst fears about facing someone whose combat expertise existed outside normal tactical limitations. Multiple teams establishing specialized positions, Stormwatch reported. Chimera's deployment includes prototype atmospheric sensors. Their equipment is specifically designed to detect Project Echo. Precision effects. Through her command center's monitors, Sarah watched Jackson implementing advanced countermeasures throughout Pine Haven. Each piece of specialized technology represented millions in classified research, developed specifically to counter capabilities that had redefined what was possible in precision combat. "Sir," Echo Team's leader transmitted to Chen, "Chimera's presence confirms a critical tactical situation. Their specialized equipment is exclusively deployed against operators whose capabilities exceed military classification. Sarah's secure system detected increased encrypted traffic as Nova Frontier's leadership processed these implications. Through their compromised channels, she intercepted crucial intelligence about the true scale of their operation. "Commander Jackson," Chen transmitted, his voice carrying growing concern, "Nova Frontier has committed significant resources to this acquisition. Project Echo capabilities or not, failure is not an option." Jackson's response reflected professional understanding of exactly what they faced. "Sir, I need you to comprehend the tactical reality. Project Echo operators don't just exceed normal combat limitations. They fundamentally redefine what's possible in precision engagement." Through her sophisticated surveillance network, Sarah observed Chimera Group's specialized teams establishing advanced defensive positions. Their deployment patterns showed intimate familiarity with capabilities that violated accepted tactical parameters. "Additional forces implementing prototype countermeasures," Nightshade reported. "Chimera's equipment includes experimental systems for detecting precision effects that transcend normal ballistic limitations." Sarah acknowledged the information while continuing to monitor their sophisticated deployment. Each piece of advanced technology confirmed that her Project Echo capabilities had forced military experts to develop entirely new categories of countermeasures. "Sir," another operator transmitted urgently, "historical analysis shows the target's involvement in classified operations that remain heavily redacted. Chimera's specialized response suggests capabilities far beyond normal tactical classification." Through encrypted channels, Sarah intercepted mounting tension in their tactical communications. Jackson's professional expertise directly conflicted with Chen's corporate determination to maintain aggressive deployment schedules. "All units implement maximum security protocols," Jackson transmitted, his voice carrying the authority of classified experience. Target's Project Echo training allows her to achieve precision effects that violate standard tactical limitations. Conventional countermeasures will be ineffective. Sarah's slight smile carried decades of combat experience as she watched their mounting realization about exactly what they faced. The systematic deployment of Chimera's specialized equipment confirmed that her capabilities had forced military experts to fundamentally reconsider what was possible in precision combat. "Sir," Bishop transmitted to the Crown with evident concern. "Chimera's arrival confirms the severity of the tactical situation. Their specialized response suggests the target possesses capabilities that transcend normal military parameters." Through her command center's advanced monitoring systems, Sarah tracked new, encrypted transmissions between Chen and his corporate superiors. Nova Frontier's aggressive timeline was colliding with the tactical reality of facing documented Project Echo capabilities. Update on Nova Frontier's strategic objectives, Stormwatch reported through their secure channel. Intercepted communications reveal planned expansion across multiple mountain corridors. Pine Haven acquisition is phase 1 of a larger corporate takeover. Sarah maintained her disciplined observation as their forces continued implementing specialized countermeasures throughout town. Chimera Group's arrival had transformed this confrontation from aggressive corporate expansion to classified military operation against documented Project Echo capabilities. "Sir," Echo Team's leader transmitted with mounting urgency, "Chimera's deployment confirms a critical tactical situation. Their specialized equipment is exclusively used against operators whose capabilities exceed military classification." Through her sophisticated surveillance network, Sarah watched Jackson personally directing the implementation of advanced defensive positions. His tactical expertise reflected intimate familiarity with capabilities that had redefined what was possible in precision combat. Additional teams establishing prototype detection grids, Nightshade reported. Chimera's equipment shows significant advances in counter-sniper technology, specifically designed to engage operators with Project Echo capabilities. Sarah's secure system pinged with updated intelligence about mounting tension between corporate objectives and tactical reality. Chen's determination to maintain aggressive deployment directly conflicted with Jackson's understanding of exactly what Project Echo capabilities could achieve. "Commander Jackson," Chen transmitted, his voice carrying forced authority that barely masked growing concern, "explain exactly how the target's classified capabilities impact our operational timeline." Jackson's response reflected professional recognition of the tactical situation they faced. "Sir, Project Echo operators developed precision combat capabilities that fundamentally changed our understanding of what's possible. Their ability to exploit complex atmospheric variables allows them to achieve effects that violate accepted tactical limitations. Through encrypted channels, Sarah intercepted mounting alarms in their communications as Chimera Group's specialized equipment detected signs of her advanced capabilities. Each new piece of intelligence confirmed that they faced precision effects that transcended normal combat parameters. Multiple teams implementing maximum security protocols, Stormwatch reported. Chimera's deployment shows intimate familiarity with Project Echo capabilities. Their countermeasures are specifically designed for engaging operators whose precision effects violate tactical limitations. As Sarah continued to monitor the unfolding situation, the tension in Nova Frontier's leadership became palpable. The carefully structured plans for acquisition were now at risk, and each tactical update only deepened their desperation. They had underestimated the scale of her abilities, and Chimera's presence served as a harsh reminder of the strategic leap she represented. "Commander Jackson." Chen's voice crackled through the encrypted line, frustration evident. "We need a solution now. The operational window is closing. The broader operation hinges on Pine Haven's acquisition. We can't afford delays." Jackson paused before responding, his voice steady but edged with the weight of command. "Understood, sir. But we're not just facing a resistance force here. We're confronting a redefinition of combat. This isn't something we can outgun or outnumber. I'm recommending a full redeployment of our forces, integrated with Chimera's countermeasures, but even that's no guarantee. Sarah watched closely as Jackson initiated the next phase of his defensive strategy. It was a well-coordinated effort. Specialized teams from Chimera Group fanned out, their sensors and detection grids forming an intricate web around the key locations within Pine Haven. Every movement, every tactical shift was a clear acknowledgement that they were adapting to a threat unlike any they had prepared for. As Sarah observed their increasingly reactive posture, she couldn't help but admire the precision with which her adversaries were attempting to adapt. It was an acknowledgement of her own skill, a kind of backhanded compliment to the edge she'd carved for herself in the world of Black Ops warfare. The encrypted transmissions continued to flow, each one revealing a subtle shift in Nova Frontiers. Approach. Chen's initial overconfidence was fading, replaced by a nervous pragmatism as he struggled to contain the growing chaos. All units coordinate with Chimera's teams. We need full engagement protocols, came the latest order from Jackson. Deploy advanced atmospheric disruptors along the high ground. Target's ability to manipulate complex variables gives her an edge in vertical terrain. No position is safe. Nightshade, stationed on the high ground, relayed further updates. Deploying. Disruption fields along the ridge. Visual confirmation of Project Echo operator activity on the southeast perimeter. They've adapted to our initial counter-sniper tech, but we're forcing them into more predictable zones. For a moment, it seemed like the tide might be turning in their favor. But Sarah knew better. She'd already anticipated these adjustments, already planned for them. Her advantage lay not in brute force, but in her unparalleled understanding of environmental variables. The terrain itself was her ally. The weather, the wind patterns, even the ambient electromagnetic fields were all variables she could manipulate to her benefit. Echo team, hold position, Sarah transmitted through her own encrypted channel. We'll let them push forward, make them believe they're gaining ground. Her words were calm, even measured, but behind them lay a deep understanding of the game. She was playing. She knew exactly how Jackson and his forces would proceed, how their reliance on technology could be exploited. Sarah's training in Project Echo had taught her to operate outside the bounds of conventional warfare, to use every sensor, every piece of equipment they had deployed, as a tool to mislead, to deceive, and ultimately to defeat. Jackson, though, wasn't one to be easily deceived. As his team continued to advance, setting traps and tightening the noose around Pine Haven, he began to notice the inconsistencies. The way certain teams had been redirected, the sudden lack of clear intel. From some sectors, the inexplicable shifts in the atmospheric conditions that made their sensors seem momentarily unreliable. Something's wrong, Jackson muttered, reviewing the latest transmission from Chimera's teams. We're being funneled. He turned to his operators. Recalibrate all atmospheric sensors, now. Prepare for a high-intensity electromagnetic interference. Pattern. It was a calculated response, but Jackson didn't yet know the full extent of the trap Sarah had set. The EMP bursts she had silently initiated were already beginning to affect their systems, scrambling their sensors in real time. Commander Jackson, Chen's voice came through once more, this time sharp with frustration. We need results. I don't care about the technical details. What matters is that you secure the town and prepare for Phase 2. Jackson clenched his jaw. Phase 2 will fail unless we acknowledge the true nature of this threat. We're not dealing with a simple operator. We're facing a next-generation battlefield that doesn't follow conventional rules. As the final pieces of the puzzle locked into place, Sarah's voice cut through the encrypted channel with a calm but unmistakable tone of command. This is the end of your operation, Commander. Your teams are out of position. The clock's run out. From her concealed vantage point, Sarah prepared to move, her mission clear. Nova Frontier had underestimated her, and now they would pay the price. With every calculated move, she had forced them to reveal their weaknesses, to expose their desperation. Chimera's latest deployment had proven effective in certain regards, but the game had changed. Sarah had already calculated the variables. This would be her victory, and there would be no more interference. Sarah took a deep breath, her fingers gliding over the controls of her secure system. The countermeasures she'd triggered were already starting to take full effect. The electromagnetic interference she'd deployed had scrambled Nova Frontier's sensor grids, and their visual confirmation of her team's movements was distorted. She could see the panic building within their ranks as they struggled to regain control. "All units, prepare for emergency protocol," Jackson barked through the comms, his frustration now evident. "We need to break the cycle, push forward. This isn't just a target. We're dealing with a shadow that can rewrite the rules of engagement." But Sarah was already several steps ahead. Her voice was steady as she sent another transmission, her words barely audible over the crackling static. "Echo Team, initiate secondary phase. We're moving." The atmosphere shifted. The calm, precise cadence of her commands was a stark contrast to the increasing chaos unfolding on Nova Frontiers. Side. While their systems faltered, Sarah's team had already adapted to the situation. The environmental variables she'd manipulated, subtle shifts in air pressure, wind patterns, and electromagnetic interference, gave her precise control over the battlefield. Jackson's next transmission was laced with determination, but there was no hiding the uncertainty creeping into his tone. "Deploying fallback units. All Chimera teams on high alert. This target is operating outside every textbook. We've written, but we're not backing down." His words were bold, but Sarah could hear the cracks in his resolve. His forces were spread thin, scrambling to cover multiple entry points, and their resources were now caught in a battle of attrition against a foe they couldn't even fully track. She knew they had no idea how badly they were being outmaneuvered. Through her advanced surveillance network, Sarah monitored every movement with clinical precision. She saw Chimera's elite operatives struggling to reposition, their once imposing counter-sniper tech rendered useless against the environmental disruptions she'd engineered. The specialized equipment that had been the pride of Nova Frontier's military strategy was being turned into a liability. "Echo Team, converge on the central sector," Sarah commanded. "Engage when ready." Her team responded in sync, silently, moving into position. The beauty of Project Echo wasn't just in the combat skills it had honed, but in the ability to move unseen, unheard, and unnoticed. They weren't just following the terrain, they were becoming part of it. The terrain was an extension of their senses, and as they converged on the central sector, they did so without leaving a trace. Meanwhile, Jackson's growing sense of panic was evident in his communications. "How are we losing track of them? We've deployed everything we have. Chimera's best gear is failing. We need a solution now." "Commander," Echo Team's leader responded with a hint of urgency, "we're no longer sure where the target is. These sensors, they're picking up anomalies, but we can't lock on to anything specific." Jackson clenched his fists, the situation quickly deteriorating. His voice was tight when he spoke again, addressing his superiors through the encrypted line. "If we lose Pine Haven, if we fail to contain this, we're looking at a much bigger problem. This goes beyond just an operation. It's a breach of security at the highest level." Chen's response was terse, biting. "Then fix it. This operation has to succeed, Jackson. Do not let one rogue agent derail the entire agenda." Sarah could hear the stress in their voices, and it only served to fuel her confidence. They were playing catch-up, and she was the one who set the rules. Nova Frontier had spent millions developing technology to counter threats like her, but in the end, their reliance on systems and protocols couldn't account for what she was capable of. As Sarah's team began their final push toward Nova Frontier's central command post, she watched the defensive lines weakening. The disruption fields were still in play, and Chimera's forces were caught in a tactical blind spot. With their sensors malfunctioning and their lines of communication cut off, they were unable to mount a coordinated defense. Jackson's last-ditch effort was a desperate one. All Chimera units initiate manual targeting protocols, get a visual on the perimeter, and lock down. No more surprises, but by then it was too late. Sarah had already anticipated this shift. With calculated precision, she had begun guiding Echo Team into the heart of the central complex, where the real prize lay. The data vault that contained Nova Frontier's most classified operations plans for an aggressive corporate expansion that reached far beyond Pine Haven. The information there was vital, not just for the operation at hand, but for the entire future of Nova Frontier's covert ambitions. Echo Team, initiate extraction, Sarah ordered. The voice of her leader was calm, authoritative, cutting through the tension like a scalpel. We have what we need. Sarah smiled, not in triumph, but in quiet satisfaction. Every move she had made, every countermeasure she'd deployed, had led to this moment. Nova Frontier had underestimated her, their arrogance blinding them to the reality of what Project Echo could achieve. Now, they would be forced to reckon with the consequences. As the Echo Team moved through the final barriers, securing critical data files, Sarah's mind turned to the next phase. The battle wasn't over. There would be retribution, consequences for those who had dared to challenge her, but this was just the beginning. The operation had been a resounding success, but the war was only just starting. Mission accomplished, Sarah whispered to herself, knowing the chaos that would soon erupt in Nova Frontier's command centers. The silence in the wake of their failure would be deafening. As Sarah and her Echo Team moved swiftly through the final corridors of the central command post, the weight of their success settled in. The data vault, a secure and heavily guarded facility nestled at the heart of Nova Frontier's operations, had been breached with calculated precision. Every step taken had been part of a larger strategy. Every disruption, every misdirection, all leading to this. Echo Team's leader spoke quietly over the comms. Vault secured, extracting data now. Sarah nodded, her focus unshaken. This was the culmination of months of planning, months of pushing the boundaries of conventional warfare. As she watched the encrypted files being extracted, she couldn't help but think of the wider implications. Pine Haven was merely a stepping stone. Nova Frontier's reach extended far beyond this town, and the information within the vault could bring the entire operation crumbling down. Just as the last files were downloading, an alarm blared throughout. The command post, a final desperate attempt to stop them. We've been compromised, a member of Echo Team reported, their voice calm but alert. Chimera's backup forces are closing in fast. Sarah didn't flinch. Continue extraction. Leave the rest to me. She could feel the pressure building. Her every move had led to this. Nova Frontier had thrown everything they had at her, and now they were facing the reality of a force they couldn't defeat. Chimeras closing in. On the south side, Echo Team's leader reported again, urgency creeping into their voice. They're fast. We'll need an exit strategy now. Sarah's mind raced, but she was already a step ahead. She had anticipated this final hurdle. With a flick of a switch, she activated the secondary route, an exit tunnel buried beneath the command post, one she had identified and prepared in case of exactly this kind of situation. The enemy had no idea it existed. Echo Team, head for the secondary exit, Sarah commanded. Meet me at the extraction point at 5. The team moved with military precision, vanishing into the shadows. As Sarah herself lingered behind for a moment longer, she paused to look at the vault's door, the symbol of everything Nova Frontier had worked to protect. Her fingers brushed lightly against it, knowing full well that what lay within was more than just data. It was the foundation of their ambitions, their future. She didn't have time to dwell on it. The countdown was ticking. The enemy was closing in. As she turned and sprinted toward the exit, she felt a surge of adrenaline. This was it, the final step. She reached the extraction point, just as Echo Team was already regrouping, the last of the files in hand. They wasted no time in securing their gear. All units, extraction complete, Sarah transmitted to her network, her voice calm, but carrying an undeniable edge of finality. Nova Frontier has been neutralized. The underground tunnel led them to a hidden transport hub on the outskirts of Pine Haven, where an unmarked vehicle awaited them. The storm of chaos that had swept through the command post seemed a world away now, and as they drove away from the town, Sarah glanced back through the rearview mirror at the fading lights of the command center. But there was no satisfaction. In the reflection, only a sense of inevitability. Nova Frontier would send more forces, regroup and rebuild. But the game had changed. Sarah knew they would never see it coming again. As the vehicle sped through the night, she received a final encrypted message. It was from her contact, a high-ranking ally within Project Echo's internal network. Operation success confirmed. Now we move to Phase 2. Keep your distance. Trust no one. Her fingers hovered over the screen for a moment, considering the message. Phase 2 was something much bigger, more far-reaching, more dangerous than anything Nova Frontier could anticipate. There would be no turning back after this. Sarah leaned back in her seat, her gaze fixed on the road ahead. The mission had been completed, but it was only the beginning of something far greater. The storm she had set in motion was only starting to swell, and in the coming days the world would learn the full scope of the power they had unleashed. But Sarah, as always, would remain one step ahead, because she knew the truth. Power wasn't just in the fight, it was in the silence that followed, and in that silence she would be the one who controlled the narrative. As the vehicle hummed steadily through the night, the shadows of the Pine Haven Mountains receding in the rearview mirror, Sarah's mind continued to race. The operation had been a textbook success in terms of execution, but there was no time for celebration. She could already feel the tremors of what was coming next, the ripple effect that would be felt across the entire corporate and military landscape. Nova Frontier, despite their disastrous failure, would be relentless in their pursuit. They would regroup, analyze, adapt, but she would be ready. Status report, Echo Team, Sarah transmitted, breaking the silence in the vehicle. All personnel accounted for, came the response from her lead operator. Extraction went smoothly. Data secure. Good, Sarah replied. Stay sharp. We have a long road ahead. The next phase begins now. The vehicle sped down the winding road toward a hidden airstrip, one of several safe houses she had established in case of situations like this. The night was eerily quiet, save for the soft hum of the engine and the occasional rustle of trees along the roadside. Yet the silence felt heavy, like the calm before a storm. Sarah's mind flickered briefly to the data they had retrieved from the Nova Frontier vault. It was more than just corporate secrets. It was the lifeblood of their expansion plans. Deep within those files lay information on multiple upcoming operations, black market deals, and most crucially, a list of covert military assets they had been stockpiling under the guise of defensive research. This was far bigger than Pine Haven. Nova Frontier had been making moves globally, movements Sarah could now disrupt. The extraction point was near. They could already see the flickering lights of the airstrip in the distance, but as they neared the rendezvous, a sharp ping echoed through Sarah's secure system. She glanced down at the screen. It was a high-priority communication from her Project Echo contact. Phase 2, detailed instructions incoming, the message read, with a single attachment, a highly classified document labeled Project Nemesis. Her pulse quickened. Nemesis. The name was both ominous and intriguing. She quickly accessed the document. It was a list of targets, names she didn't recognize at first, but as she scrolled further, the realization hit her. These were influential figures, corporate heads, political power players, military contractors, people who had either been supporting Nova Frontier's covert operations or had turned a blind eye to their illegal activities. Phase 2 wasn't just about disrupting Nova Frontier anymore. It was about dismantling an entire network of global corruption. Her eyes narrowed as she read further. Nemesis was a blueprint for decapitation, taking out the key players and destabilizing the entire foundation that had allowed Nova Frontier to grow so powerful. The scope was larger than anything she'd previously considered. It wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about a message that no one, not even the most powerful, could ever think they were untouchable. Her fingers hovered over the screen, her decision weighing heavily on her. This would change everything. She'd have to pull in every resource, every ally she had ever worked with, and possibly create new ones. The stakes had escalated beyond tactical warfare. This was geopolitical chess, the kind of game where one wrong move could bring down empires. The vehicle came to a smooth stop at the airstrip, and Echo Team immediately disembarked. A black helicopter was already waiting for them, the rotor blades beginning to spin as the team loaded in quickly and efficiently. Sarah gave one last glance toward the road they had just traveled, the image of Pine Haven vanishing in the distance. There was no turning back. As they ascended into the night sky, Sarah opened a secure communication line to her closest operative, a former ally turned clandestine asset within Nova Frontier's ranks. She needed to know their next move, and she needed it fast. "All units ready for Phase 2, she spoke quietly into the comm. "We've got a bigger target now. I'll need eyes everywhere. Anyone connected to Nova Frontier's board, get them on the radar. We go after their patrons, their financial backers, anyone with ties to their global influence." "Understood," the voice on the other end replied, steady and cool. "We'll be ready. You'll have intel within the hour." Sarah nodded, shutting off the transmission. Phase 2 was in motion. As the helicopter climbed higher, she glanced out at the dark expanse below her. This was only the beginning. Nova Frontier would retaliate. There was no doubt in her mind. But what they didn't realize was that they were facing more than just a rogue operator or a skilled assassin. They were facing the tipping point of a new world order, one where the powerful could no longer hide behind their walls of corruption and secrecy. The helicopter's engines roared as they cut through the night sky, and Sarah couldn't help but feel a sense of purpose surging within her. She had already shifted the balance in Pine Haven. Now she would shift it globally. They had thought themselves untouchable, but that was their first mistake. The second would be underestimating the storm that was about to come. In the weeks to come, whispers would begin to echo through the world's most powerful boardrooms, governments, and military installations. People would question their security, wonder who was next on the list, and panic would spread through the upper echelons of society. Nova Frontier, the once unassailable corporate giant, would find itself at the center of a storm, one that would unravel its very foundation. But Sarah, she would be the one pulling the strings from the shadows, orchestrating every move with the precision of someone who had learned long ago that true power didn't come from being seen. It came from being untouchable. As the helicopter disappeared into the night, her mind already calculating the next move, Sarah knew one thing for certain. In this world, power isn't taken. It's earned through silence, through shadows, and through the unrelenting pursuit of those who think they're beyond reach. War had only just begun. Up next, you've got two more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hits the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.